audio so that everybody can hear us. So just 1 second and then we will be starting. While we're waiting, you are all welcome to use the chat box to introduce yourself and get to know each other as well. We have a great agenda lined up today. And just as I said, thank you so much for joining in just at time. And as we are having more people joining in, let me just introduce myself very quickly. I am Sahara Shidbeg, and I am one of the young authors for the Youth for Climate Initiative. I'm really happy to welcoming you all to this webinar, which is going to be very interesting and very helpful for having conversation around how to turn that uncertainty around climate action into climate change into actual action and bring solidarity between one another as young people and feel empowered. So hopefully it's going to be a nice session for all of us. So we really appreciate you to take time out to participate in one of these another insightful session of In Our Shoes webinar, Learning with Young Climate Innovators series today. As I mentioned before, today's webinar is really focused on youth empowerment and mental health. We have three very dynamic young climate innovators and their projects lined up for today's discussion, with great two keynote speakers full of insight and knowledge on the field, but also very interesting and useful tools to offer on the topic as well. And we hope that we all get to learn from them throughout the session. We're very excited for the engagement, all the engagement that we are also seeing already in the chat box. Thank you so much for that. I just want to flag one very important information, which is that we have translated captions available in this webinar. So if you want to access them, you can also see that message in the chat box how to access them, but really you can access them by going to the caption feature in the bottom of your screen that you would be seeing on your Zoom screen. And then you select the speaking language as English, and then you choose the language of translation in the language which you want to see on your screen, the translations in. So hopefully this will help, and hopefully that you are able to follow us throughout the session, because your presence in the session is really valuable. I would really like to highlight that it is also really crucial for us to hear all of your voices and your reflections. And we will be also conducting the Zoom polls throughout this webinar to have it as interactive as we can. But also there is always an option to send your thoughts, your questions in the chat box as well. And we are always happy to discuss them further in the Q&A section as well. Allow me to please introduce the webinar series, the In Our Shoes webinar series real quickly for all of you, and welcome to all of those for whom this is the first time. This webinar series is called the In Our Shoes, Learning with Young Climate Innovators, and this is part of monthly webinars that basically happen every month. This is convened by the Youth for Climate Initiative, led by UNDP, United Nations Development Program, and the government of Italy. Youth for Climate aims to identify, amplify, support, and scale youth-led climate breakthroughs. The first Youth for Climate Call for Solution was in 2023 and scored over 1,100 youth-led solutions in the areas of climate education, energy, food and agriculture, urban sustainability, and we ultimately awarded 50 teams from across 39 countries with $20,000 each to realize their work, to implement their work. Their solutions cover topics like clean cooking, alternative building materials, agroforestry and agriculture, organic waste, climate literacy, nature-based solutions, climate resilience, solar energy, digital solutions, and mental health. And as you might have already guessed, that these are the thematics also for this webinar series. So each month we have a webinar on each of these topics to spotlight each of these areas that serves as a space of learning and reflection among young innovators working on similar challenges across countries and regions. The series is titled as In Our Shoes, Learning with Young Climate Innovators. And you might ask yourself why at this point. So, in our shoes, really, because youth are paving the way and leading change in their communities. And because there is so much to learn from their experience, it comes to actually translating this work into action and implementation, and to make sure we capture a broad range of experience beyond those innovators you will hear from directly. We are also hosting an online discussion about each of these webinars, and we really encourage you to participate in that as well. You can participate in these discussions on the platform, and the link has been shared in the chat box right now. And we already have captured some interesting contributions on the topic of youth empowerment and mental health. Thank you so much to all of those who contributed. And we are looking forward very much to hear more in the chat box as well today. Um, the insights gathered in this webinar and online discussion will be captured into a brief that we will be sharing with you in the coming days as well. So that was all the logistic information. Hope you enjoyed that as well. And hopefully it was also helpful for you. Now, without any further ado, allow me to introduce the first keynote speaker, Noemi Altobelli. And Noemi is the community manager of the Conscious Food System Alliance. She's focused on relationship building among several stakeholders in the agri-food sector and in the field of consciousness and inner development. She holds a degree in international law and master's in development economics. Prior to joining this great alliance and institution, Noemi worked as and with NGOs supporting livelihood and climate resilience projects in the Gambia and Solomon Islands. She is also a yoga teacher and a meditation teacher, and a musician and a storytelling. So we will be having a little bit of that. So this is just a spoiler. So without any further ado, Noemi, I'll pass the floor to you.
Thank you, Sahar, and thank you for having me here. It's a very great pleasure. So yes, as Sahar said, I am working for UNDP for the Conscious Food Systems Alliance, but I am also a yoga and meditation practitioner and teacher. And I would like to start this session on reminding ourselves the importance of breathing. Our breathing is always a stable, solid ground that we can take refuge in. So no matter what is going on inside us, our thoughts, our emotions, our fears, our breathing is always with us and like a faithful friend. So whenever we are carried away by our thinking, when we are overwhelmed by strong emotions and deep grief for our planet, for Mother Earth, or when our minds are restless and dispersed, we can really return to our breath and bring together our body with our mind and calm and anchor ourselves into the present moment. So I would like to invite you to have this short practice as a grounding practice. And please join me in finding a comfortable position and to close your eyes and just simply focus your attention on your breath and this act of breathing. And just intentionally focus your attention on your belly that moves in and out. And just notice how you feel today. Maybe your day is starting or you are in the middle of the day, whenever you are based. And just take this time, take this space for checking in with you. How am I today? And just try to feel if there are any tension in your body, if any part of your body is speaking to you and is calling for your attention. And if your mind fly away, you can ask her to come back to the body. And just with this awareness of your breath become more light, more calm, more peaceful. And just repeat, breathing in, I know I'm breathing in. Breathing out, I know I'm breathing out. Just let this awareness calming your body and your nervous system. And then again, breathing in, I smile to my body. And then breathing out, my body is at peace. And still enjoy the sensation of open sense, of peace. You are just in the here and now, in the present. And from this space, you are able to see wonders of life, the sun that shines, the blue sky, and just remind yourself that life is constant and ever changing. We are breathing has been shared across millennia. So each breath is just a miracle. With each breath, we are reminded that we are part of this beautiful, life-giving planet. And this planet is right here, powerful, generous, and supportive at every moment. So we are in touch in this moment with the present. And when we are in touch with the present moment, we can really enjoy the beauty around us. And we can really realize that there is no difference between healing the planet and healing ourselves. So breathing in, I take refuge in Mother Earth. And breathing out, I release all my suffering to the earth. And then from this space of connection, we can open our eyes with this sense of gratitude. And even if we are not in a meditative state now, we can carry this energy throughout this meeting. Thank you. So yes, feel free to share in the chat how you feel after just a few minutes of breathing. It's such a powerful practice to remind us that we actually have capacity inside ourselves where we can take refuge Um, so I'm going to have a little presentation about the work that we are doing. The Conscious Food Systems Alliance is a movement of food and agriculture and commodities practitioners convened by UNDP, and we are united around a common goal, which is to support people from across food and agriculture systems to cultivate inner capacities that activate systemic change and regeneration. So basically, in this initiative, we are trying to bring a new lens, which is the lens of inner development. So we look at the inner dimension of food systems transformation, which is often neglected and overlooked. And we try really to promote this focus on inner capacities. What we mean for inner capacities, we mean mindset, values, beliefs, but also those transformative qualities like deep listening, compassion, self-awareness, resilience, love, joy, that are so essential yet invisible ingredients for making our food systems more healthy, respectful, and fair for people, animals, and nature. So we are a movement of 300 members, followed by over 3,000 people all over the world. And our central message is really reconnection to ourselves, nature, and others. And as this slide says, we used to think that the top environmental problems were biodiversity loss, ecosystem collapse, climate change. But then we realized that actually the top environmental problems are selfishness, greed, and apathy. So we are trying really to understand how we can foster change from a place that is from joy, from love, because we know that fears and anxiety might be triggers for action, but we want to act from a different state, a state of agency. Next slide, please. So basically, despite many investments, at least in the food sector, and so much technical expertise, we really saw that the change that we wanted to address is not happening. And we have growing evidence that show the values of addressing mental models and mindsets, and we want to include address this mental models and mindset into our projects. So we want to include into our response in our project to the response to current crisis, the considerations of emotions, values, and identities, which shape the world that we are right now in this moment. And there is more and more consideration in the science and then in the research field about the importance of addressing mindset and value shift. So next slide, please. As we can say, there are some barriers to food systems transformation. So we can say that they are not only systemic structures, but there are barriers that are in our mind, in our heart. So for example, this extractive mindset and this culture of separation from oneself, from each other, from nature is very important, because if we don't understand that the earth is everywhere, we used to think that the earth is just the ground beneath our feet, but actually is the water, the sky, the sea, everything around us in these moments come from the earth. The earth is not just the environment we live in, we are the earth, and we always carry the earth with us. So realizing this connection, we can begin to transform our relationship with the earth and shifting from an extractive mindset to really taking care of that. So also this kind of reductionist and siloed thinking, we are not able to really address the complex challenges in a systemic way. There is lack of collaboration, lack of trust, and a care deficit. So we really want to create a system where we can have solidarity and community at the heart of that. So our model of transformation is really that we have developed together with 30 members, and it's next slide, please, was being launched in 2022. And the message behind is that there are certain practices like meditation, nature connection, compassion training, experiential learning, nonviolent communication that can support this shift within ourselves, that can support this shift in our consciousness. And therefore, it's really important to have this complementary approach to integrate technical solution along with contemplative practices. So, for example, nonviolent communication can teach people to express themselves with clarity and compassion while paying attention to others in a respectful and empathetic way. And as well, mindfulness or meditation can help cultivate openness, awareness, non-judgmental presence. And this is shown to improve well-being and resilience or pro-social, pro-environmental attitude and behavior. So it's really how we can bring and integrate those type of approaches into 3 levels: individual through coaching, retreat, group, building safe and connecting and transformative space, but also institutional into cultural transformation of organization, and really shift our consciousness in a way or our way of sensing, perceiving, and feeling the world. And just through this connection, more connection with ourselves, really we can change the world outside. And then the next slide, please. In practical terms, the areas of work in which we are working on at this moment are farmers' well-being and psychological resilience, traditional wisdom for conscious food systems, and then conscious local communities and cultures for regeneration. So we are bringing together expertise, but also stakeholders around those topics. We are creating dialogue and participatory approach to understand really how we can address in a collective way, in a participatory way, what does it mean to integrate farmers' well-being into projects? What does it mean to integrate traditional wisdom? So this indigenous and native knowledge and view, cosmovision into projects. And as well, how we can foster local communities and cultures for a more regenerative future. And then finally, we have, I just want to share that in the last slide, we have 2 main pillars in our work. One is the community and one is the application. So the community is really a core part of our work because we really think that we cannot change this system alone. We really need good friends, and we really need new ways of connecting to each other, new ways of collaborating. So under this pillar, the community which I'm managing, we are really coming together, practicing meditations, but also different type of practices coming from different contexts, and also reflecting how we can integrate those type of contemplative practices into our work, into our food systems projects. And then from the application side, we are funding some members on the ground to really test those type of approaches in the field. And at the same time, we have developed a training on building inner capacities for food systems transformation. So we have developed this leadership course. And as well, we have developed monitoring and evaluation learning framework that capture how to measure inner change, how to measure inner development. So basically that's my end, but basically we are just exploring this link between inner development and outer development. And now from working on ourselves, we can actually realize a change also in the outside. So thank you very much. I give the word back to Sahar. It was a bit fast, but
Thank you so much, Noemi. And first of all, I think that I would not be wrong if I say this, that I'm really speaking on behalf of everybody present here, that the exercise and the grounding exercise that we did really brought us in this moment, really brought us here and now. So thank you so much for doing that together, and really just highlighting what we all can do for a climate conscious society, right? And really highlighting those interlinkages between inner development and outer development. It was such a learningful intervention. Thank you so much for that. By the way, for all of us present here today, and all of us listening, Climate Conscious Society is one of the part of Youth for Climate Manifesto as well. And if you want to read what the young people have drafted, it will be also nice for all the new people who are joining the community just now. So really encourage everybody to do that. So thank you, Noemi, once again. And with that, we actually one thing that you highlighted was also getting this sense of solidarity and the feeling that we are all in this together, and how as a community we can bring that sense of agency. I think that really the next Zoom poll is talking about that, and we would love to hear from everybody present in this room today about your emotional response to the climate crisis. So we will see the Zoom poll soon on our screens, and the Zoom poll basically says, which of the following emotions do you most associate with the climate crisis? And you can select all that applies to you. So fear or anxiety, hope or optimism, anger or frustration, motivation or empowerment, sadness or grief, or helplessness or despair. So feel free to listen to yourself and respond to this Zoom poll. We would love to hear from you. We would give it 1 minute so everybody is able to submit their answers. And then we will be able to see the answers on our screens as well. Great. Are you hope that you are all are able to access the Zoom poll and put on the most relevant option for yourself. Do we want to see the results of the Zoom poll now? Yeah, so we have the most top rated one with 51%, that is fear or anxiety. And I'm really happy that at least we are taking the first step towards it, that we're coming as a community to address it. And hopefully with this session of in all of us together, we will pick maybe one lesson which can help us to to feel that we are in this together. Hopefully that's the hope. And I think that we can manifest it, right? And we have definitely hope and optimism as well. They're not so far away. They're 36%. So let's see how we can increase it together. Thank you so much for responding to the Zoom poll. We will have many of them throughout the session so we can hear from you. And also, as I mentioned, you can also write down always in the chat, and we will be really appreciating a very vibrant chat. Thank you so much for that. With that, I will pass the floor to our next keynote speaker, Nika Saidi. Nika is the UNDP Global Lead on Mental Health and Psychological Support program, and the global focal point on religion and development. It's a role that she has held since 2014. Previously, as the team leader of prevention on violent extremism and hate speech, she led the UNDP's global effort to protect human rights and promote peace and stability. With over 27 years of experience and a master's in religion and culture, Nika has influenced global policy, forged partnerships to advance peace building, violence reduction, and women, peace, and security agenda. So Nika, the floor is yours. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Sahar. I should have changed my bio to not to include 27 years of experience, because then everyone knows I'm very old. So sorry to be the old one, but I'm contributing to intergenerational dialogue. So I really appreciate being here. And Naomi, what a wonderful presentation. I really enjoy, and I'm going to connect to you. You know, it's interesting as we are both UNDP, and also we are always learning from each other and finding the different initiatives that organization actually taking forward. And I'm so proud of this project, really. Looking at 96 people are here today listening. Such a encouragement and the great presentation that would come and the work that will be shared. And I'm so sorry that the pool was not that optimistic, that the fear of and anxiety comes very strongly. And I am not young, but I feel that it's a truth. I want to take you back to my country. I'm Iranian, and want to share with you a picture that has stayed in my mind from age of 5. So Iran is very diverse, and we have parts of the country that don't have much water. And I'm talking about almost 41 years ago. So I am almost 50, so there should be 40, actually more. 2 or 3 years ago, that I was watching in a TV channel that they were showing young kids carry the water from a pond back to their village, and they were sharing that it take 2 or 3 hours for the daily water to be reached back home. What stuck with me, that's the way that also water was carried. And the water was carried in, they would take the tire, the tube of a tire for the vehicle, they cut it so it becomes, you know, the round tire, when they cut it, it becomes like a half circle. And they will fill it up with the water and put it on the back of donkey, and then they carry the donkey. And I remember I always have a problem if the water would smell, like I would pick up my glasses and I was, oh, it smells or not. And when I was just thinking, the water in a tube, and this is the drinking water, would take 3 hours to be taken back home and to drink it. And from that time, even my relationship with the distance, with that pictures, with the water has changed and has shifted. And every time I would be very interested to learn, is it raining there? Is it not raining? What's happening? And the drought become a nightmare for me. Also thinking, oh, is it going to be my future that I also have to drink the water in this way? So that was a 5 years old thinking. But we are 40 years past that time, and we know drought and lack of water, it's actually facts of life. And even finding a water and the quality of the water, we know how many people don't have an access anymore, and it's getting worse. But this is the situation we live in. And Naomi, thank you so much for reminding us that quote of relationship, the inner calmness, the relationship that we have with our own self, and the relationship we have with each other and the community, and the relationship we build with nature. This interconnectedness explains who we are and how we relate to each other. So the reason I just shared with this story with you, because I lead the work on mental health and psychosocial support, and many of you know that it wasn't a strong work coming across different levels of work. It used to be the mental health psychosocial support, and I'm going to put the definition also in chat, that used to be part of the work on reconciliation and peace building. But now more and more people realize, and in one way, after the COVID mostly, that how it's important that to have a mental fitness. So it's important to acknowledge that the mental fitness and the role that emotion plays. And you young people know that as much as we want to be a rational being, but 90% we make these decisions based on our emotions, 10% rational. And you are much more aware of that. And that's why you can understand the role of influencer, the social media, all of that. we are realizing further and further. And in one way, in development work, we are taking into account that how much we can use the neuroscience, understanding behavior insight, and be able to encourage a better understanding of human being in mind and body and soul. And this work has brought us, and for example, the work that Naomi's team are doing in the food consciousness is a manifestation. How would it look like to be able to have a program that integrates emotions and human relationship and understanding to self and the nature back to here. And many projects are looking at also relationship with the governance and policy makers. You know, the role of trauma-informed decision making, healing centered approach, community work. So I can go on and tell you more about this. I'm excited and I'm so passionate about the work, but we just want to bring to this a space of what we are doing as you know, as we are trying to raise awareness on MHPSS. And I just want to share a few ideas with you because in one way, what we did today, well, we acknowledge that we are all anxious. So the acknowledgement is part of the process. The second, we want to have resources and tools to better understand how we are self-regulating ourselves, how we use different methods and tools existed, both at the individual level and at the community level. So Naomi also shared, and Sahar, you mentioned the dialogue, and I saw a lot of the young people are also adding different ways that they are creating a more self-regulation. But also you are leader in your own community, and the community level engagement and what we are doing at the community level is important. One of the best way, and I love the quote that once I heard, happiness is when you see your potentials comes to existence. That was the definition of happiness. So one way when as you're all finding have find your purpose and a way to contribute to the well-being of yourself, your community, and the sense of greatness, how we are sharing it with others, how we are looking into ways of creating more space for engagement and production. They're calling it social production in one way. It's a definition of social activity, volunteerism, contribution to well-being, and it can bring a bit of calmness to us. I'll give you a few examples of how it has done, and I'm just actually I'm calling from Indonesia, and I have been attending discussion with the faith-based actors and a lot of young people here. So when we were talking about MHPSS, one of the um, a young activist turned like look at me and said, you know, we actually did a vulnerability assessment. We were not really into how the mental health and challenges have impacted our young people and community. And then suddenly, through this vulnerability assessment, we noticed that there is a fear, anxiety, and increase even in suicide. So she said, suddenly it becomes an issue that we paid attention and we didn't know. And one way they have been looking at it, it's an idea that actually first started in Zimbabwe, friendship benches. And if we have um, people who are joining from Zimbabwe, they might have some information or maybe experience that. So it's just a very simple approach that people would come on the benches and they would talk together, and that's life. So they realize that actually it can be used for discussion and conversation. So here they have food cart, and the food cart are surrounded by three layers of the seat that they sit around it. So they're using it for creating further discussion as part of the acknowledgement, awareness, the dialogue, and they're also creating a lot of community-based work to resolve a lot of issues that are related to the climate change. And it's within our control that we can contribute. Not all part of it we can control or we can prevent, but we can lessen the impacts or contribution to exacerbate the climate change issues. So there are many ways that we can think. I'm not going to add because you are the one that created the expression and creation is the manifestation of being young. So I'm sure you will come with many, many, many ideas. and you will take into consideration how we are creating a space to create this feeling of interconnectedness back with the nature and bring it to life again. So thank you so much. Thank you for giving me this opportunity and having me today. Over back to you.
Thank you so much, Nika, and thank you so much for your hopeful words. As a young person, at least, they really spoke to my soul, and I hope that we really felt that energy coming through from your words as well. Because one thing that you highlight really is the sense of agency, and also the importance of sharing that greatness. A lot of us have been volunteering our time doing different things for climate action, and this is one of the things that came as well when we were having when we initiated this conversation for the webinar on the platform as well. So the good practices that were coming on the platforms were really the tools for making a common space for young people, and the support system for the youth advocates, and using also sharing that volunteerism also has like a lot of power. You meaningfully contributing to something, and that feeling of like compassion and kindness that you share with each other has a lot of power as well. So thank you so much for sharing that. And I see a lot of messages from the young people in the chat who are also saying thank you, and we're also joined by some mental health advocates as well in this call. So thank you so much for joining us today, everyone. Good. So with that, starting from a very positive note, this was my personal favorite starting, by the way, for the record. So starting from a very positive note, let's move towards the actual essence of the conversation by the young people in this webinar. So we will now be having presentations from the Youth for Climate awardees. And to begin this, I will first of all invite Clara Moltini from Argentina, and she is representing her project Eco House Global. Clara, thank you so much for joining us today. For you, I have two questions for everyone joining us today to know your project better as well. Would you like to share with us about your project, first of all? What is Eco House Global? And how does Eco House basically engage and collaborate with other young people, other youth organizations in Argentina and Latin America? It would be really interesting to learn from you, Clara. Thank you so much. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Zahar, and welcome everyone. I'm so excited to be here. Well, Eco House is a nonprofit organization. We are from Argentina, and we are committed to driving sustainability action through education mainly, and volunteering, communication, ecological restoration also. So we've been working on this for almost 8 years now, and our main focus is driving change, and education is a big part of driving that change. So that's why we created this project. The project that, thanks to Youth for Climate support, we could do this year was the Climate Cup. It was a national climate Olympiad. So the whole idea of this project was to engage with high school students in climate change, and inspire them not only to learn, but to become more agents of change and think of solutions that apply to their communities. So we designed this Olympiads as a football-inspired competition kind of thing, since Argentina won the 22 World Cup, so we wanted to capture that energy for Argentinians, that we are such a good fans of football. So students earn points through quizzes and challenges, and the idea was to build up like this competition until they were rewarded. We did many awards, but the main one was all expenses paid trip to the Conference of Youth, local Conference of Youth here in Argentina. So our project really was very successful. We were so proud of that. I think that the football theme made a huge difference. Over 1,700 students registered, and over 600 participants were actively competing in the Climate Cup. And we also, not only in this platform and learning platform, we did the competition, but also we did a few training sessions for students and teachers to prepare them, especially for the semifinals. So that the 20 teams that got to the semifinals needed to not only get there by learning, but also they had to present a solution for a climate problem in their community. So they had to present like a 10-minute video about this problem. And we got one winner that I am so excited about this project that they made. They were from La Pampa, a province here in Argentina, and their project was about redesigning the city bus routes to cut emissions and make public transport more efficient. So I was amazed by this solution. I mean, high school students engaging so deeply in a problem that was in their communities, but not many people thought really about it. And they got to share that with a lot of youth in the local conference, and they came back, with confidence to push change. It was very fulfilling to see how that happened. And I also think that for us, this project was so successful, and we are so grateful for that, because we were going through kind of a different and difficult situation in Argentina. So this kind of projects that drives change and inspires and education is very important for us, since over half of our country is below the poverty line, and public education is not being funded. So it's kind of crazy, and these projects are very important. So we feel that we need to be continuing doing this kind of things. And Sahar, you also asked me not only about my project, but how do we engage with other youth organizations, because this project obviously did, with students, teachers, and schools from all over the country. Over 70% of the country participated in this, so it was huge. But since we are an 8-year old NGO, we've done a few other things that we're really proud of. So we collaborate with different organizations in Argentina and in Latin America, especially because we think that we need this partnership. We need a supportive network. We need to be better equipped to tackle these climate change issues, and not only in a technical way, but in an emotional and mental way. And if we are together and youth is together, I think it's much better. So we really feel that, and in that way, we developed 2 programs within the NGO. One of them is the Network of Schools for Sustainable Development. So it's a network that is a free environmental education program. We've been running it for years, and we work with schools, directors, teachers. We give digital content, workshop, events, many things to interact with them. And hopefully it's been really well known, this program. We've reached over 250 schools over the country, so that's very important for us. And since we didn't want to stop at schools and teachers, we also developed a program called the Forum of Sustainability Education Organizations. So now we are reaching not only schools, but those organizations that are working in education in Argentina and Latin America. Over 100 organizations are joining us in this program, and not only from Argentina, but also from Chile, Colombia, Ecuador, Guatemala, Paraguay, Venezuela. So the idea of this network is to share resources, strategies, and the support that we need to work together in this kind of things. So it isn't really about just driving climate action. It's about supporting young activists' mental health and supporting them in their initiatives. And we know that this climate crisis can be emotionally draining for us, and we might feel isolated. So this kind of programs and building networks is one of the things that Eco House wants to foster with this kind of programs. So yeah, that's about it. I don't know if I have much more time, but thank you, Zahar, for the questions. I hope you liked it. And if you need more information, you can go to echo.house in in Instagram, or you can write me. I'll leave my LinkedIn and I'll give more information about the project and the NGO. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Clara. And yes, that was definitely very helpful. I really appreciate how you're basically taking forward the chain of hope that we started with Noemi's grounding exercise to Nika's, intervention and points around, around hope, and that, validating this emotions existing, and then, you taking out actual change for them. I think it's a good kind of combination of points that we are building towards. And as I said in the first poll, indeed it was showing fear and sadness as probably the most felt emotions. But I hope that today, just as you said, the climate community as well that you're trying to build using this initiative, I hope that some inspiration and some communication we can also have the community here as well together within all of us in this webinar, and continue that sense on the platform present as well. Just wanted to offer that because I know that I should have said it, building up on what Nika also said, which was about agency, that the platform always really exists. So feel free to have these conversations there as well. And it's so nice that we can all come together and have this very important conversation about how young people are also changing, for example, that narrative to actual action. Thank you, Clara. And now it's time again for a Zoom poll. And it's time again, I think, to have that conversation about the agency as well, which we will be doing a lot throughout this session. So the Zoom poll right now, I hope that you all have it in front of your screen. And it's really about understanding your sense of agency in climate action as a young person. So on a scale of 1 to 5, how much agency do you feel you have to make a difference in climate action? How much do you feel that you count? So if you choose number one, it means no agency at all. If you choose number two, it means minimal agency. If you choose option three, it means you feel some agency. If you choose option four, it means considerable agency. And if we choose option five, it means that you're having full agency by taking like climate action. And if I can just um, make it easy, like what we mean by agency, right? Here in this context, it's really like how supported you feel in the climate action that you're taking, how how you feel that you're provided with, for example, the environment, the tools to adequately advocate for climate action, to adequately implement climate action that is in your mind, to adequately be supported in climate action journey as well. So let's hear from you. And then, yeah. So I hope that most of you have filled this out. Do we want to have the results on this? Well, this is rather positive. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's we have five. We have number five, number four actually as the most voted one, which is considerable agency. It's great to hear that you feel that you have the support and the environment needed to take climate action. and to make a difference in climate action as well. And hopefully the 1%, the 2% that we have, and the 14% that we have among us who are feeling no agency at all, or minimum agency in taking climate action, hopefully we can all join the group and yeah, and address the reasons behind it, and hopefully can also change that number to a considerable agency or complete agency as well. Thank you so much for filling out that Zoom poll. With that, we will move forward in our session now, and I would like to invite Maria Maldonado from Mexico, representing Educating Lawyers for the Future, or sorry for my Spanish, but Nuestro Futuro AC. So I pass the floor to you, Maria, and with you, I want to really I think that will be really benefit to for all of us to learn present here today. uh, if you can share a little bit about your project, what it is about, and what you are doing, the great work, and really, what are the long-term goals for advocating climate legal knowledge and public impact in Mexico? So, thank you, Maria, and the floor is
Thank you. First of all, thank you for the invitation. I'm really happy to be here. I think these are really important topics to discuss about mental health, and I am very happy to present our project. So I am a member of an organization which is called Nuestro Futuro, which is translated to Our Future. Excellent Spanish pronunciation, by the way. So our organization began as a collective of young people that were concerned about the effects of climate change. And today, the organization in general focuses on promoting climate justice, compliance with mitigation, supporting vulnerable communities, adapting to climate change, all of this in Mexico. Could you please say the next one, please? So we saw a problem we wanted to address with this project. The project I will explain a little bit later, that we have a really good climate change framework in Mexico. However, it is not being implemented by the authorities. The government is taking more and more regressive measures every day. And we have seen how young future lawyers want to help, but do not know how. Aggravating to climate anxiety. I speak from lawyers because I am a lawyer, and most of the people in the organization are lawyers. So this is why we chose this approach to the project. And faced with this challenge, we believe that educating young people, future lawyers, about climate change, about its consequences, and about what solutions we have available is crucial for our generation to drive actions aimed at climate justice. So this is a problem we saw in Mexico, and this is what we wanted to address in our project. Could you, the next slide, please? So our solution is a project called Educating Lawyers of the Future. I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but the objective is to teach young law students in Mexico how to fight climate change through public policy, law compliance, which is essential for Mexican climate change policies to advance and become increasingly ambitious. So first, we generated all the didactic and pedagogical material necessary to teach the seminar on climate change for law students. I don't know if anyone here is involved in education, but this first step, it's crucial, and it's a really long process to really know how to approach the students, which are the more important topics, how should we, which tools should we use to teach them. Anyone who is in school, you have seen what a bad pedagogical framework can be. So we really wanted to make this interesting, to make it dynamic, to make it practical, so the students could get the most out of the seminar, out of this experience. And after doing this, to getting all the material ready, we would start collaborating with law universities in Mexico. So the idea is to form a partnership with the universities and to form these materials. So even if we are not doing, even if we're not implementing the class, even if we're not teaching it, that any professor can teach it. So In the first stage, we will teach this class because I will explain later where we are in the project. But the idea is first for us to teach a class, but then to pass it to the school, pass it through the law schools, pass it to the professors, so they can also teach this class without us being involved. And this is how we can replicate the project and replicate the seminar, even if we are not there anymore. So we can go to other schools, we can go to other universities, and this summer will continue even in the universities that we are not where we are not anymore. Could you do the next one? So what we have achieved so far, this is a 2-year project, well, 1.5 years approximately. So first, we successfully designed the first manual in Mexico for teaching law at universities with a climate change and nature perspective. I apologize, this is in Spanish, but it's just how it looks like. It was very hard, but it was very exciting. We did a lot of research. There is, if for anyone who its first language is not English, you know how complicated it is to find information not in English. We had to translate the materials. We had to do all this research in English and then translate it to Spanish. We really, really struggled finding all the information all right in Spanish. So it was a difficult work. It took us 6 months to do it. Some professors gave us feedback on how to do it better, how to do a better job with the methodology and everything. But we had a really good result. And next slide, please. And so what is next? Now that we have the first climate justice seminar for law students ready, we are approaching universities and law professors to create alliances with them and to implement the next phase of the project, first in 3 law universities. So we are approaching the universities, we are telling them about the project, showing them the materials, and we hope that we will form alliances first with these 3 law universities that we already have mapped out in Mexico, so we can teach the seminar here, see the reaction of the students, see if they like it, if they don't, if they think it's useful. It's a 5-session seminar with 2 hours each, so it's a 10-hour seminar. We cover from international framework to national framework, adaptation, mitigation. We cover the most important cases in the world about climate change. It is really, really focused on law students. So it's pretty legal, the content of the course, but we are very excited to show it to the students. We are very excited to collaborate with them. This first 3 universities will give us like a sense of what we're missing, what we can do better for the next part. And could you do the next one? And this is the potential term of the project we want to achieve. We want to form a generation of young people who are educated in climate change with a nature perspective, specifically regarding the regulatory framework in Mexico, in order to ensure that the next generation will know how to defend their environmental rights, in order for the next generation to know exactly how they can influence public policy in Mexico regarding climate change. So these young lawyers who want to save the world. I was one of those young lawyers once. We hope this class is useful for them to really know that this area of law exists. It is not very developed in Mexico, so it is not a class that already exists. So we really want to show them they have an opportunity to enter to this field. And if you could do the next one. This is the team. We put a little bit of quotes we made for the project, but to finish this presentation, I want to show you an example of how this legal framework can actually have an impact once you apply it in the real world. So we had in 2021 a case that the organization with other 4 youth organizations, we filed a lawsuit against the Mexican government because we consider that this law that you see here, that you don't need to know what it's about, it was regressive and it didn't advance with the climate goals we have in Mexico in the electric industry. So could you do the next one? So the argument was that Mexico is constitutionally obligated. I apologize if this is a little bit too legal, but in really simple terms, the idea is that Mexico needs to mitigate and adapt to climate change, and this needs an energy policy that favors the energy transition to change from fossil fuels to clean energy. So the court decided that they told us we were right and we won the case. And it said that the Mexican government has the duty to increase clean energy in the electric sector in Mexico as part of its obligation to mitigate climate change. So we're still waiting on the appeal and the next decisions and everything, but I think it's a complicated case, but this is like, in really simple terms, how lawyers can actually influence and impact policy in their own countries, in this case in Mexico, and this is how you could really see a long-term impact. If we finally have lawyers that know that this area of law exists and that they can pursue a career in this area. And this is what we are trying to do long term. I think the next one is the last one. And yeah, thank you. Thank you for the invitation. Here are our social media, and I will put my email on the chat. So if anyone has any questions or anything, you can contact me directly. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maria, and thank you so much for bringing back that perspective of youth empowerment in making people believe that they can also achieve all of that as young people. Thank you so much for making this amazing course as well. Both Clara and you are doing like absolutely inspiring work when it comes to like inspiring young people around you and taking them on board and empowering them to basically implement the climate action we envision. And I think that this was also something really interesting. We got to read a good example from other opportunities, basically, where young people are supported. Young advocates who are doing, for example, the legal climate legal work, how they can be supported as well, and the tools by which they can be supported as well. So really interesting insight to read from the platform as well. So hopefully we will all be able to initiate that conversation once we go back, or we can also have questions towards the end as well if you want. So with that, we will initiate the next Zoom poll for today. And with this Zoom poll, we are really talking about the areas of engagement in climate action, right? We are really considering to find out, for example, now that we have had some great like opening remarks, some hopeful opening remarks, and understanding better our connection and our development. Internal and external development, and then we heard from Clara and Maria about the perspective on youth empowerments. Then what so far you think, which one of the following areas are you currently engaging in or are interested in for climate action, right? Some learnings that you have already done, or some good practices that you are already engaged at, maybe. So really, it can be personal lifestyle change, for example, reducing waste, sustainable consumption. It can be activism and advocacy. It can be education or spreading awareness. It can be policy and government engagement as well. Maybe some of you are working in drafting the NDCs or with the young person's perspective. Some community initiative or working on social impact projects. Or you're unsure and need support to identify it. It's also very okay to say that as well. We will give this 1 minute as well, so everybody is able to choose their desired option. You can also reflect more on your option in the chat box as well, or as I said, on the platform as well again. It's also really fun when the youth and climate action advocacy can be joined up by this fun and play element like Clara's team is doing with the World Cup, right? Bringing in that competitiveness and that spirit of that sportsman spirit in the play. And then there's, on the other hand, really activism and advocacy that Maria's team is doing, really, spreading awareness through education and everything. That is also very crucial. So we have really interesting insights in the room. Thank you so much for contributing to that. Let's hear what we have in the room the most now. We will soon be sharing. Great. So we have the most voted answer, which is community initiatives or working on social impact projects. This is great given all the conversation that we had at the beginning by Nika and Noemi as well. We have also personal lifestyle changes. This is also super great. We have activism and advocacy then at 48%. And then we have actually 58%, which is education and spreading awareness, which is super crucial when we want to basically implement the climate justice that we are talking about. And no matter which option you chose, and no matter, even if you are from the 33 from the 3% that choose, I'm not sure, I'm here to learn and here to do things together, that's completely fine as well. We all were there at one point in time, and just wanted to remind everybody that together as a community, it's a good lesson to learn that climate justice is a lifestyle, right? It can be anything for you, it can be anything for me, and what it allows us within our identity. So don't it's really important that as young people we don't take like all the pressure that it has to be something very perfect, like it has to be my own project, it has to be I don't do this certain thing in my lifestyle, for example, because it is what we make of it. And I think that this is really important, that for us to just validate it. And I think it's a great conversation. I'm really enjoying and loving all the support and all the answers that you guys are giving. So thanks so much for being so collaborative throughout. Now we will hear from a very interesting project as well. Once again, from a young person doing great work on the ground. So we have Valeria with us from Ukraine, who is representing Ukrainian Youth Climate Initiative. Valeria, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. So again, my name is Valeria, and I'm the co-founder of Rozvi Youth Climate Initiative. I want to say that I'm really excited to be here, as Rozvi has been a proud awardee of the Youth for Climate program, And I'm here to share. I'm here because I wanted to share a little bit about what Rozvi stands for, what drives us young people in Ukraine, and how we're holding on to hope even during the hardest times. Next slide, please. Why am I talking about the hardest times? Because let's consider for a moment the context of our country, of our situation. And I actually wanted to read something that I wrote a year ago, reflecting on some situations. So imagine that one day you wake up in the early morning and the place where you'd lived all your life is no longer safe. So you hear one explosion, you hear two, you hear three. You are frozen, lying in bed, but when it's finally silent, you rush to the window. Those in the neighboring blocks are switching on their lights, definitely in panic. And just 1 month ago, you went on your last strike, a climate strike. You were so scared for your life because you knew what destruction the climate crisis was bringing. You were terrified of the havoc and despair of the world where we didn't act. You were a climate activist, fighting for a safe future, but it's no longer safe. It is a war, and all the hope suddenly faded away. This was my morning on February 24th, 2022, when the worst that I feared became a reality. And in those early months, I was in deep despair. I was sure that my life and the lives of my loved ones were about to end. It was really hard to see any path forward, any future ahead of me. Honestly, it did feel like the end of everything. And at that time, I clearly remember thinking that how foolish of me was to stress about the climate crisis when there was this imminent threat of war looming over us all along. But the thing is that activism is built on hope. And if there's none, if your world has been shaken, your mission is to regain it. And the world is brutal. The world is very complicated because we have wars, social injustices, climate crisis, and acknowledging them is crucial, but it won't ever give us hope. And true hope blooms when there's a vision and understanding the solutions for building back better together. In 2022, I saw the solidarity of the international climate movement. I learned more about the interconnectedness of fossil fuels, oppressive regimes, and war, and in general about the interconnectedness between peace, climate, and security. And at that time, it was just my mission to talk about those in the context of Ukraine. However, it was still hard to advocate for something when I didn't have a clear vision of what future I saw ahead of me. But it happened so that by the end of the first year of the full-scale invasion, some regions got liberated. For example, the Kiev region, Sumy, Chernihiv, part of Kherson region, and so discussions about recovery began. Since I was in my bubble of Ukrainian environmental and climate NGOs and activists, there appeared this idea. I'm sorry. There appeared this idea of a green recovery. And this is what sparked hope in me because finally there was this idea that with which I could imagine a future. And so at the beginning of 2023, I called my fellow climate activist, Victoria, and said like this is where we can contribute green recovery because we are young people and we are not only inheriting all the destruction caused by war, but we're also facing an escalating climate crisis. But there's this idea of a just and sustainable reconstruction, and let's fight for it. And so for me, it was a very powerful idea of a green recovery, and for her as well. And this was what pushed us to create this initiative. Of course, I'm skipping a lot of information right now, but this is just like a concise version of how Razvi was born. Next slide, please. So you may ask what our name means. Razvi is an old Ukrainian word for development, but not just any kind of development. It implies a sense of thriving and blooming. And this vision feels really important to us because again, the future often might feel blurred and dark, but Rosvi is about believing that rebuilding Ukraine doesn't just mean like putting back what was lost, but it's about growing into something stronger, greener, and resilient, like more resilient than ever. And so, next slide, please. And so we set ourselves an aim to build a community of Ukrainian youth that is educated on the issues of climate and sustainable development and ensure that their voices are presented in the processes of green recovery of Ukraine. Yes, next slide, please. And we've done a lot of work in the past 1.5 years of our existence. But there was also an educational initiative that we wanted to implement, and the Youth for Climate program became a perfect partner for it. This initiative was a podcast for young people about post-war just transition in Ukraine, given our context of war. You might think that there's a ton of information about just transition, but we noticed that there's like lack of resources in the Ukrainian language that addresses our unique situation. And we really wanted to talk about solutions that speak to this unique situation. We also wanted to create something that speaks directly to young people, and that these complex subjects are presented in an accessible and relevant and hopeful way. So it's basically about giving like this clear and realistic and hopeful view that can drive the people, what our recovery might look like, what our future might look like, and how they can join to it. Because um, young people are the future experts. If we want the recovery to happen, we need to educate young people on what available solutions are there, or what should we strive for, and so on. And we need to start to do it right now. And so our podcast is as like, you know, a drop in the ocean, because there's still a lot of work to be done. But I'm very proud that we are doing this work and that we got support. Um, because again, it's about implementing this green future, even if the context sometimes doesn't really give much of that. Okay, so we haven't launched our podcast yet due to some reasons, but we are aiming to launch it at the beginning of the next year. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, because throughout this year, that we were doing other work, we managed to get some audience, some followers, and some people that are interested in this knowledge. Because when we talk to people and say that we want to make this podcast, people love to hear that, and they always ask like, okay, if it's already there, just like send the link, because I'm really, really interested. Because again, it's just like figuring things out together along the way as everything is happening. The situation is dynamic. So this is what we have been doing, and we are really set to launch the podcast next year.
Thank you so much, Valeria, and congratulations on the podcast. Very much looking forward to when it's live as well. And thank you so much for translating that fear into hope, right? How you started with the story, and how you started with putting things into perspective as a young person when there is a conflict, and how climate security is compromised because of that, all sort of among all sort of securities first. But one thing that really resonated with me is how these presentations from Clara, Maria, and yourself are really not just an example of youth empowerment, you young people empowering other young people, but really what Noemi and Nika came. The point from Noemi was that, not trying to continuously change the system, but empowering the people enough in the system, and giving them enough support, enough to basically feel like, support and have the sense of agency. And that is something that I see really implementing through what you discussed about your project. And thank you so much thank you so much for sharing about your project, and really appreciate you taking time out to be here today. Good.
Thank you.
Yeah, good. So now with that, we will go to our last Zoom poll. And after that Zoom poll, we will have, the final section of the webinar. So really, if you have any questions, have them prepared. It will be a good opportunity to hear them. So with the last Zoom poll, how we are trying to check and hear from you about supporting agency and empowerment, basically. So this is about what would help you feel more empowered to take climate action, right? So is it access to resources or education on climate action? More youth-centered policy support, opportunities to connect with like-minded individuals, mental health support or coping strategies, support from family, friends, and community, and or tools or platforms for amplifying your voices. What would make you feel more empowered as a young person? This is all what this Zoom poll is about to hear from you. And let's give it 1 minute to have all your reflections on this Zoom poll. You can also use the chat box. And I also, just as I previously said, that this is just the beginning of this conversation. We can always continue the conversation on the platform as well. Great. So is it a good time to also hear from the Zoom poll now? Great. So this is a very interesting one. So we got basically the first voted option as access to resources or education or climate action, very relevant. We have then tools or platform for amplifying youth voices. We hope that the tools that we shared, for example, in the chat box, were helpful. Stay in the loop and the community to have more tools and resources as well. The platform, the Youth for Climate platform, hopefully can also amplify your voices and give you an opportunity to talk to each other as well and share other opportunities and resources. We also have a very strong one in the room, which is opportunities to connect with like-minded individuals. So thank you very much for sharing your perspective with this Zoom poll. I really appreciate it. And with that, we will go now to back to Noemi to basically have any reflections from on the presentations that she has just heard from the awardees, or any advice, any words that you want to share with us.
Thank you, Sahar. Actually, it was they are very inspiring presentations, and I'm so happy to have seen how actually they have this integrated and holistic approach, all of them. So it's very inspiring to see the awareness that we as young people have compared, different generations. So I might leave more time for Q&A, for questions, because I'm aware that the webinar ends soon. But just a big congratulations for the amazing work you're doing, because it's very inspiring and super, integrated and complete and holistic, tackling from different aspects, and not only the external solution, but also taking into account emotional well-being. So just keep going.
Great, thank you so much, Noemi. So do we have any immediate questions, for example, for any of the awardees or towards Noemi? And also we can ask the questions as well, because on the platform as well, as all the awardees are also there as well. So we have a question for Eco House. So we have, how does Eco House a global organization or just in Argentina?
No, actually, I know it's Eco House Global, that's global, because you're trying to reach global issues and global organizations, and we are partnering with global organizations to achieve what our goals are. But we are based in Buenos Aires. We have an Argentinian organization. We are more than 20 people working, and we are in Argentina, but working with organizations all over the country and Latin America especially. And we have a few organizations also that are working outside of Latin America for our forum of organizations that I was talking about. For example, we have some organizations from the United States, from Spain, from UK, Israel, so Germany also. So we have a little bit of a mix, mainly Argentina and Latin America, but we have those cases also.
Great, thank you, Clara.
You're welcome.
Noemi, this question is basically something that I personally also wanted to ask you, but thanks to Federico for bringing this question in the room. The question is really, has art therapy a role in mental health related to climate?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, art is one of the healing practices for excellence. So we have actually some projects that are bringing art and also in its vast form, because it's really difficult to define what is art, but are bringing art as a therapy. For addressing mental health, but also anxiety and stress relief. So yeah, I can mention some organizations that are trying to integrate this. For example, SECAM in Egypt, they are working on biodynamic farming, and they are integrating already art into their holistic educational program with farmers. So yeah, it's very explored in the recent years as a very powerful tool to bring healing.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Noemi, for sharing that. And then we also have one question regarding, you know, funds and resources for climate action. And really just want to advise that, you know, it will be a good idea to stay up to date on the Youth for Climate platform, as there might be like opportunities, good practices or something that you could have a look at when they are being posted. So just a piece of advice. We have just one question. This is going to be the last one, and we promise that we will give you the time back and have the questions also discussed in the on the Youth for Climate platforms. If you want, we can continue this conversation. This is not the end of conversation. So the question is saying, my question is for the one who talked about Olympics. So I assume that this was you, Clara. Clara, you talk about the Olympics. I would like to know what difficulties they encountered in the implementation of the project.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for the question. So, actually, a few of them. So one of them was connectivity. So Argentina has, as I mentioned, half of our country below the poverty line. So the first thing that we did was the platform to be like in a computer, so you can do it behind the computer. And then when we start like engaging with schools, we realized not many of them had computers to participate. So we had to change it also to make it like in a phone so that you can engage with your own phone and participate. That was one of them. And also when we're talking about engagement of schools, we've reached 70% of the provinces in Argentina, but it was really hard because we connect almost with the state, that they can give us the contact of some schools that are over there, and we are going through some difficult times in politics, so it was hard to engage with the governors, and that was kind of hard for us to get that contact and to reach schools. I mean, we were very fortunate because we worked with a lot of schools prior to this, so we could go through that and not especially involved some of the governments. But for us, yeah, the political will to do it was hard, and also the technology was, I think, mainly those two problems.
Great. Thank you so much, Clara. Thank you so much for a very active engagement today, everyone. Thank you so much to all the speakers and the audience for your active participation. We really appreciated all the active contributions in the Zoom poll and all the great contributions in the opening remarks and the grounding activity. Still feel the positive energy in my heart. Thank you so much for that. I want to highlight that the discussion on the platform will continue. So this is not basically the end of the conversation. If you have questions, perspective, discussion, we can take that forward on the platform. And we are looking forward definitely to your contributions, because the platform is our space as young people for co-creation and learning, to spark ideas and exchanges, of course, and to just bring that sense of agency and solidarity for each other as well. I will be waiting to meet you all there, hopefully many of you. If I may ask you to also join the In Our Shoes series group on the platform to make sure that you get notified every single time there's a webinar happening. So, for example, the upcoming one that is happening in November is going to be focused on solar energy, and there is going to be a conversation taking place on the platform regarding that as well. And with that, I thank everyone. Thank you, Naomi, Clara, Maria, Valeria, and thank you everyone so much for joining. And yeah, see you next time. Goodbye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you and goodbye. Thank you, Sahar, for the amazing moderation. Thank you all.
For all the support. Thank you.